and welcome to Retail Media Unplugged. I'm Cindy Loza, Managing Editor of Member Content for the Path to Purchase Institute. PDPI's Retail Media Unplugged is a video series that dives into the nitty-gritty of retail media to explore the latest trends, strategies, and tactics for success. In each episode, we'll go behind the scenes with our special guests to dig into how they're navigating the evolving realm of retail media. Joining us for our latest episode, I'm delighted to welcome Dean Harris from Co-op, which earlier this year debuted Co-op Media Network, the UK's first retail media network in the convenience store channel. Welcome, Dean. Thanks so much for being here. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your new role at Co-op?
Hi, Cindy. First, really grateful to have this chat today, despite us being a few thousand miles apart. But everyone, hi, I'm Dean. I'm the head of Co-op Media Network, a job title that I've had for less than 3 months, considering we launched in January. Co-op's tasked me with growing our retail media business. So I've got the focus of brand, marketing, our media products, streamlining our operations, our data and tech ecosystem, our people. I've been at Co-op for, I think it's 11 years this summer, and I've worked across CRM, media planning, trade planning, most recently loyalty, and also customer strategy. And obviously now I'm in the retail media game. And before Co-op, I was in advertising agency land. I'm mainly working on B2B clients, actually. I was lucky enough to have a client selling bags of cement. So if you can sell bags of cement, you can sell anything. But yeah, that's my background.
Great. Well, to kick things off, can you tell us a bit about Co-op and its shoppers?
Yeah, Co-op's the UK market leader in convenience grocery. So we've got just under 2,500 stores. I know that doesn't compare quite with the big numbers we see in America, but the UK is a lot smaller. And that actually means we've got a store in each postal code area, so like our zip codes around the UK. So we're the most geographically widespread grocer in England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. And that gives us a big proximity benefit, which is huge in convenience. And a stat that I heard from our insight team is that 82% of the UK population live within 2 miles of a Co-op store. We tend to over-index in pre and post family. Once you get a family, it's a bit harder to nip out to the shop. You've got to strap the little ones into prams or into car seats, and that tends to be more for the online convenience channel, which we also have. We have a rapid delivery business as well, and shoppers' main priorities in convenience is ease and speed. They've got a grocery problem and they want to solve that problem as soon as possible.
And how do people shop the convenience channel in the UK?
Yeah, it's a difficult channel to service because the missions and the people shopping those missions, they're impatient, they're often impulsive, they're unplanned. Like a larger grocery store, you might meander down 20 plus aisles, whereas in a convenience store you've got quite a precise need that you want to just get in and get out as fast as possible. So things like having a intuitive store layout and making sure queuing times are minimized. The industry in the UK as a whole, it might be similar to the US convenience market, but it's high footfall, low basket spend, low number of items, in and out. Often you find people don't even pick up baskets. They're just there struggling, holding things, going down. The formats of the stores are a lot smaller. So a typical Co-op shop might have five aisles versus a large supermarket that might have 25 aisles. People don't come in with a list like they would do a supermarket. The main missions for Co-op, at least in convenience, are top up. So I've been on a big shop somewhere else. I've run out of milk. I've run out of eggs. I've run out of bread. I'll come to a Co-op store. And then there's distress. We call it distress, which might be I know it's grandma's birthday and you've forgotten to get something and you're on your way around, so you'll pick up a card and some flowers and some chocolates. And then another area we do really well in is a meal for tonight. So that's on. We're actually number one in the UK for meal for tonight occasions. So that might be anything from a pizza to a microwave meal to fajita kits at home. And I was at a conference recently where Andy Murray, not the tennis player Andy Murray, but the ex ASDA chief marketing officer. I think he spent some time at Walmart as well. And he said that shoppers in convenience typically have three budgets: a money budget, a time budget, and a frustration budget. And the time and frustration budgets are really important in convenience. Money budgets are important everywhere, but those last two are really important in convenience shopping.
It's funny that you mentioned the tennis player Andy Murray because that the only Andy Murray I know is from Big Quest. So uh, don't need to explain that one for me. But I know you mentioned and I believe a delivery with Co-op, and I know that you guys have a delivery service. Was that a result of the pandemic or just fulfilling a shopper need for convenience? And is it a popular service?
We changed our strategy. So Co-op had acquired different types of store over the like we're a business that's 150 years old, and we've gone through different phases of strategy. And over the last 10 years, we've basically said convenience is where we play. That's our positioning. That's what we can own. No one's better at running small stores. No one's better at servicing convenience shoppers. So we actually had our online convenience offer in the pipeline before the pandemic, and it launched in 2019. So that was shop.coop.co.uk, and that caters for those low item, quick need groceries. So there are the bigger sort of grocery missions online that you can have that turn up outside your house in a van, and several baskets are offloaded out the van and they go straight into your fridge and your cupboards. And then there's our convenience offer that's mainly delivered on by mopeds or even bicycles, where it might be, 5 items or less that you need in the next hour. And that might be because you've got friends and family that have come round unexpectedly, or in the UK, which is really hard to plan for, which is good weather and sunshine, and you might need some burgers and sausages. That's the typical reason you'd use Co-op's rapid delivery service. But the pandemic obviously resulted in a big surge in that channel, and we saw a lot of growth. And 2020 was actually when we started offering on-site advertising solutions through that channel. And we announced it quite recently, but Co-op also is available through quick commerce partners, so Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eat. You can use those platforms to choose different grocers to get food from, and Co-op was recently announced as the number one grocer on all delivery apps. So we're doing well in that channel as well.
Dean, you've been at Co-op for more than 10 years. What has Co-op's retail media journey looked like from your seat?
A busy and hectic one, but yeah. So in it's evolved significantly. So in 2016, we had a very limited toolkit. We had a really low number of people in the team. There wasn't a lot of investment going into it in terms of media innovation or operations. It was more from a brand point of view, seen as a cost of doing business with Co-op or any retailer at that time. And it wasn't really taken seriously as a media channel you could actually grow your brand through. Um, and as such, shoppers weren't the priority, which meant that the brands weren't getting the performance, which meant the growth in our retail media income wasn't there either. But the big changing point for us, I call it the sort of intervention or fix era, was we appointed Threefold, which are part of the Shopper Media Group, and they're our long-term retail media agency partner. And we started looking at a toolkit, improving our compliance. So compliance in terms of out of the ads that brands paid for to go up in our shops, what percentage went up. In 2016, embarrassingly to admit, it was like 30%. And that just wasn't good enough. And if the ads don't go up, they're not going to perform. So we also improved our service levels to brands. And over the following few years, the shopper execution was better, the compliance was better, the sales uplift was better, the toolkit was better tailored towards the convenience market. And because we got better at that, our investment grew. And since that point in time, 2017 to 2023, we almost tripled the size of our business by just focusing on those basics. And you need those foundations before you can start really going through transformation or trying to differentiate yourself. And it wasn't until we had that we were ready to turn ourselves from a sort of sales house model where the Co-op brand didn't feature at all. We were entirely just threefold, and that sales house almost like an inventory model. And we felt we had a brand that would be unique and compelling in a convenience focused retail media network. So that's where we are now in this sort of transformation era. And we think we've got an ownable, clear position. We've got a meaningful proposition. And I think I'm knocking on 8 roles or 9 roles at Co-op. And this is probably the most entrepreneurial I've felt in all the roles, in terms of having something that's really exciting that we think we can market and deliver performance for brands at the same time as growing our business.
How long was Co-op Media Network in the works for? And can you explain the role of the retailer's agency at Threefold in the launch?
We'll be probably one of the longest standing retail media partnerships there is with Threefold. So our current relationship will take us to at least 2028, which is 12 years. And if you consider that how fast changing the landscape of retail media has been, even the last 2 years alone has been a roller coaster. So for them to be able to adapt and continue to be able to pull us in the right directions and allow our business to grow and be dynamic on their side as well is a bit of a testament to them. So we feel more like colleagues than an us and them supplier and client relationship. And the way we present ourselves to brands now is all under the Co-op Media Network banner. So yeah, that partnership's going really well. And we're now all in that. We share the same office space. We share the same meetings. They interact with the other parts of the business in the same way I would. And I treat them as part of my team. So yeah, it's going really well, and they're a massive influence on making sure we plan for the future and we deliver for the now at the same time. But in terms of what sparked the sort of need to launch and where did the idea stem from to introduce ourselves as Co-op Media Network and start being more convenience focused and omni-channel and more, I suppose, state of the art or at least closer to the envelope of where the industry is going, was back when Kenyatta Nelson, who's a fellow American, joined Co-op as chief marketing officer, and he was doing the rounds of the business, and it got to retail media, and we talked about retail media and the opportunity that Co-op had, the performance, the margins, which shouldn't be the elephant in the room. And Kenyatta, it was like after meeting one, said, as an executive that has a legal services business, a funeral care business, obviously a grocery business, we've also got wholesale business. This area needs more prioritization. This area needs more investment. We've got a really strong reality in our proposition. We just need to share it and reposition it with the world. So that was the key changing point. And the other thing was the fact that our food business was becoming more and more focused on executing convenience well, and that we were also investing in our loyalty base. So we grew from, I think it was 4 million members to around 5.3 million members now. That supported the first party data aspect of retail media. It's incredibly important, and that may seem low in the numbers the American market seems, but there's no one else that understands the convenience market from a first party data point of view, because there's no other loyalty programs that have such breadth across that side of the industry. And then the other thing was co-ops. I've already listed about 6 businesses that the co-op has. We've got portfolio of businesses, and we're always keen to enter new markets where we think we can win and play. So all those stars kind of aligned, and that's where we had the freedom to look at the brand, invest in the team, invest in the media products, and yeah. So the journey's probably, I think, Canetta joined in January last year, and we launched 12 months later. So it's quite a quick one.
And what are some of Co-op Media Network solutions? Did any shopper insights influence the network and its solutions?
It gets missed out quite a lot at some conferences, where a lot of things that get mentioned are data, the way the retailer can win, the way the brand can win. And we often now use the word data instead of shopper. But shoppers are the foundation of a successful retail media business. You can't do anything unless you make the shopping decisions easier for the consumer. So convenience missions are very different to supermarket missions, and catering for those needs to be very differently. So what we decided to do was adapt our strategy and our future innovation plans around how do we best help and aid the convenience shopper, which tends to be around minimizing the amount of time they're in store, minimizing the amount of time they're at fixture, getting their transaction over and done with as fast as possible, removing those frustrations and removing those time budgets. So the shopper insights are the center of gravity for where we invest our money. For instance, digitization of the estate. If you're advertising in a convenience shop with cardboard and plastic, you're not reacting to some of the fundamentals of convenience. For instance, weather, or even sporting results. We have shops near sports grounds, we have shops on the coast, we have shops in coastal areas, we have shops in university campuses. So you need to be more agile in convenience than any other market, which means your media products need to be agile as well. So the solutions we have are, store is a big part. I think the stat came out that is around 85% of grocery transactions are in the store. In convenience, it's 95%, because you've got that high frequency in and out across the country versus those sort of delivery on mopeds and bicycles. And our e-commerce business is also 5 years in the making, whereas our physical store business is 100 years in the making. So it's a lot more established, and that's reflected in our media products that are much more store focused. But yeah, we have in-store advertising, so print, radio, digital screens, on-site through our e-commerce advertising, but also through our stores within Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber Eats. We have off-site media that uses both third-party data, for instance, geo-targeting around stores, but we're also trialing, first-party data in off-site media as well. And we're working with selected brands as we speak. And then we also have a really engaging app proposition. So we do tailored games, offers, and things like that that brands can tie in with a broader retail media campaign.
I understand you just launched, but any insights so far, successful campaigns or feedback?
We've had an amazing response. I've worked in B2C markets, and retail media is like a B2B2C market. But our clients, our prospective clients, are ultimately other businesses. And it's a lot harder to test a B2B proposition before launch than it is a B2C. If you can imagine, if you're launching a pizza to the market, for instance, you can trial that with focus groups, you can do surveys, you can put the packaging on websites and ask people to fill out ratings from 1 to 5 on the colors and how clear it is. It's a lot harder to do that in a B2B setting. So you've got less reassurance that that your positioning and proposition, despite all the conversations you'll have internally, lands meaningfully in the market. But everything we've heard from the industry, our existing partners, our conversations at events, conferences, is really, really, really positive. And then the other thing that you don't get, though, with a B2B sort of launch is it's not like you can look at day one sales and see if they went up or down. B2B is a lot slower, and retail media campaigns are sometimes booked and invested in annual cycles or seasonal cycles. The lead time might be, months or weeks. So you don't get that sort of click your fingers and look at a graph and know it's successful. But all the signals are really positive, and I think having a point of difference in the market where a lot of things are talked about purely in products. So we've got a data and media product, we've got digital screens, whereas at Co-op we're talking about an actual propositional difference, and a brand difference that's unique. So I think that's gripped the market in the UK really well. And with convenience as a focus, we're giving brands an additional consideration to strengthen their media plan. So yeah, I suppose in summary, positive, but it'll take a while for us to know if those positive signs equate to growth in the business.
So much has changed and continues to change when it comes to retail media in the commerce marketing world. What has that looked like for you, and how do you see retail media evolving in the UK and globally?
I think data privacy and geographical size play a big part in some of the differences between US and UK. Like first party data offsite came after the sort of ecom on-site advertising in the US, and in the UK we kind of started with the in-store advertising and then on-site media after COVID. So it seems like the roles have reversed a little bit, because I know digitization of the store and in-store advertising in America is a big thing now. Over in the UK, it's the data media collaboration. So the headlines that were happening in the USA around supermarket X and streaming service B are now your usual headlines. Those are headlines that have only really appeared in the last 6 months in the UK. But we're also, the digitization of the store was at the front and at the back. So it used to be at entrances and at till screens and behind the tills. You're seeing loads more of it in the middle of the shop now. So the end of aisles, in the middle of the aisles, on above fridges. If you look at other like category specialists outside of grocery, like health and beauty, Boots, which is a Walgreens owned company, I've got screens everywhere, and they look really compelling with those I'd say deeper pocketed health and beauty brands. But the other thing we're hearing more of, but not quite seen as much of, is self-serve and programmatic in retail media. Those two things, the amount of times those terms are being used is more, but they're not quite business as usual yet. But I'm sure it's not too far on the horizon before it is.
What impact do you think AI will have in the retail media and commerce marketing world?
A common question. So data drives decisions in advertising. So there's humans sat between data and a decision. And I think that there'll slowly be more decisions being made by AI, especially repetitive ones, especially ones that are complex and need a lot of variables. So if you think about, as the retail media, the number of channels, particularly in offsite media, and the amount of data available, it's almost overwhelming for a human being to be sat in the middle of that. So if you can create rules on, if you've got 5, say, groups of people that you're targeting in offsite media in 10 channels, you'd want to be, you could use AI to quickly redistribute budget to the most efficient group in the most efficient channel. That's almost like a no-brainer. But I think that the the industry of retailer and the relationship of retailer and brand is a complicated one, because on one side of the equation, the brand is the supplier. On the other side of the equation, the brand is the client. So I don't think you'll be able to put AI to in the middle of everything. I think there'll be discussions and relationships that'll be need to maintain. There'll be planning and evolutions that'll need to be discussed. But AI will probably take away a lot of the painful, repetitive tasks. So I'm hoping it'll be a catalyst and actually be quite liberating in terms of allowing retailers and brands to have conversations about the future and get less dragged into day-to-day delivery.
Great. Some of the typical challenges we hear from brand marketers when it comes to retail media networks is related to measurement, minimum spend requirements, and lack of data and data sharing. What are some of the retail media challenges in the UK right now, and how does Co-op approach them?
They're very similar. I think if you were to, pick the top 10, they'd be the same in the UK and the US. The top 3 to 4 might change slightly. In the UK, the things that I pick up on, so you can read a lot of stuff in articles and you see standardization, transparency, consistency, complexity, a lot. In my experience at Co-op, the things we hear about in the market are ease. So multiple retail media networks, all using different platforms, all using different team shapes, even different job titles. The end-to-end process is different. There's just no consistency. I know we talk about measurement consistency, but even just experience as a brand booking retail media campaigns, there's no consistency. It makes it really challenging. And apples and oranges in terms of measurement, but there's apples and oranges in terms of how to actually invest and what channels are available. And then the other one is, which they're probably interlinked, is the speed. So the reactivity of other like non-retail media channels, particularly offsite. So if you wanted to spend, if you're a brand wanting to spend £1 million in offsite media without a retail media network involved, you could probably do that in 20 minutes. And I've spoke to some media agents in the UK that say it could take 2 weeks to get that over the line from a retail media network. So the agility to respond in the market is a challenge as well. So you've got ease, you've got speed, and then transparency is the other one. I think it's unhelpful. I think that the headlines talk about high margins, so that gives you this sort of perception that someone's winning and someone's losing, and someone's winning a lot more than someone else. So I think there's this openness that's now needed to say, look, this is how we are operating. This is how we're measuring your campaign. This is what's involved in each step of the way. But yeah, like I say, transparency, standardization, and measurement are going to be number one on a lot of headlines for a while. But I think the ease and speed to work with retail media networks needs to go up, especially as more retail media networks enter the market. I think I saw some insight that the typical brand might work with 3 to 5, and that's probably because it's so effortful to work with more, not that they don't want to work with more.
Yes, we've heard from our own research that more than a third of CPG brands are juggling 10 networks or more. So we definitely understand there's a need to better navigate them all. Now, what advice do you have for brand marketers who want to work with Co-op Media Network?
One of the things we're trying to do is reframe the grocery market away from it's online and it's offline and that's it. So we're trying to say, instead of it's 2 boxes, it's 4. So if you're a CPG brand, you in the UK anyway, you might be bought online as a truck delivery for your big shop once a week. You might be put in a trolley walking around 25 aisles in a supermarket. You might also be put on a moped as part of a rapid delivery request for groceries. And you might also be put in a basket as you go around a 5-aisle convenience store. So I think the first thing is to think about how your product is purchased based on missions and needs and different ways, rather than just it's a grocery business, it's bought through a grocery channel. Because I think only then will you cater for all the different ways that shoppers interact with your brand. And when you do that, you'll realize that you've got 4 buckets to cover, not 2. And then secondly, I'd evaluate each of those buckets based on media value, as opposed to retailer metrics, for instance, like average basket size or market share. So one of the effective things about convenience is that you have a high breadth of eyeballs, you have a high number of opportunities to buy, that high frequency of transaction. Convenience is also located in city centres, dense populations of people. You get high ad visibility in the stores. So I think the first thing I'd say, if you're working with Co-op Media Network, is come in with an open mind of rethinking about the retail media market. And that's at least what we're trying to do, because we want to celebrate the benefits of convenience for a brand. But when you go in comparing a convenience retail media network with a large grocery supermarket network, you can't compare them in the same ways, because they're so very different from a shopper perspective and very different from a media perspective. So that would it. It'd be, are you tailoring for all 4 effectively? And are you working with your media agencies to make sure you're customizing your media plan around the different ways? And I think once you reframe that, things get really exciting, because there's opportunities that convenience represents that others don't. For instance, if the sun comes out in the UK, everyone flocks to a convenience store because they've already got their basics in their fridge and cupboards. They need extra stuff because they weren't expecting the sunshine. So if you want a really reactive media campaign to complement sport or weather, convenience is there, because supermarket shopping tends to be habitual, like I'll go every Friday or I'll go every Tuesday. So yeah, an open mind and think about convenience through different eyes would be my 2 asks.
Well, we are almost out of time for this episode of Retail Media Unplugged. So to wrap us up, we'd love to play a quick fill in the blank rapid fire round with you, Dean. So Dean, fill in the blank. The biggest trend right now in retail media is?
First party data collaborations, I think.
The next big thing in retail media is?
Well, it's more like now than next, but digitization of the store, I'd say.
My biggest tip for brands activating in retail media is?
I'd say collaborate in and out. So collaborate within your own business, so across all the different ways media and advertising money is spent, and collaborate more with retail media networks.
In 5 years, retail media will?
Just be called media.
Those are great responses. That wraps up this episode of Retail Media Unplugged. Big thank you to you, Dean, for sharing your expertise with us today.
No problem. I've loved it. It's been really good. It went quickly.
Yeah. So for the Path to Purchase Institute, I'm Cindy Loza. Thanks for tuning in.